specific that I can talk about. Like if we end up talking about something completely unrelated to MMA, that's fine by me. It's just kind of like we'll talk back and forth, and wherever the conversation goes, it goes.
All right, perfect.
All right, so I just to get started, man. How has quarantine been, and how have you been doing, you and your family, throughout the pandemic?
Yeah, at the start of it, I had a fight scheduled, so I was in mid camp when things in Michigan started kind of getting shut down. So once things in Michigan got shut down, I think it was probably like a good month or so where I was still going. When I was on call at work, I would still have to go in, or like if something came up that was like an emergency or whatnot, they would call us and then we would go in for that. But I'd say about a month and a half in, one of my training partners that I do some work with quite often, Jamal Hill, from Grand Rapids as well, signed a fight. So I had started training with him. So I guess since then I've been pretty lucky because I've been in and out of their gym for probably 2 months. And then my gym started doing some classes, but you can only do like one certain type of mixed martial arts. You know, that we have jiu-jitsu, MMA, and Muay Thai at Triumph, which was like my main gym. So I'm doing just Muay Thai with them, and then I'm doing all my other work with Jamal and his team.
Yeah, I do a lot of business in Michigan with the company I work with, and it hit Michigan and Seattle and those sorts of areas really, really hard. How is it gone down a little bit since then, or?
I'd say that for a while they were making it seem like it went down, but since things have opened back up, I'd say like in the last 3 or 4 weeks, it's looking like we're probably going to be right back into somewhat of a lockdown, or them kind of being very, very strict on what we're doing and when we're doing it.
You mentioned Jamal Hill. He looked extremely impressive last time out. What was it like being a part of his success?
I mean, I've known Jamal since we were amateurs. You know what I mean? So, when we were amateurs, he was a 205er then as well. And he's not the smallest 205er. He's a pretty big guy. People try to say he should go to 85 all the time, but you know what I mean. Jamal's not little. So, I think back then, it was probably 2.5 years ago, we started like sparring on the regular. We had worked out a few times together here and there. And then about 2 years ago, or 2.5 years ago, we started working together, in each other's camps at least once or twice a week. And then, ever since he got into the UFC after his Contender Series Contender Series fight, I'd say every time he got a call for a fight, he was getting a hold of me and he wanted me in there, multiple days a week, more than what we were doing, because we were kind of understanding that we're at that level now where, there's nobody else really around here that can benefit off of each other more than what we can. You know what I mean? So, I'm very blessed to have Jamal, in my backyard. Just like, I feel like he feels the same way about me. You know what I mean? My skills are very good. I feel like a lot of people don't respect me because of how I look. Jamal speaks for me, very, very much all the time. And after he won his last fight and we were in the room with Dana right there, he even said, quit sleeping on my boy. Dana didn't really look up or nothing, not his job to, he's probably got enough things going on. But, it was just cool to see, that the people that I work out with and, the things that I believe in and what I do is true. You know what I mean? I'm not really a big guy on saying like, oh, I want to be the UFC world champ. I should be in the UFC because I'm better than everybody else and blah. That's just not who I've ever been. You know what I mean? I wrestled. So we compete against whoever's across the circle. You didn't get to pick your opponents. So I wrestled all types of people, man. Tall, short, small, big. So I just try to work to keep getting better. And, Jamal's a big part of that. Jamal makes me work at all levels. And I'm good on the ground. He's good on his feet. So, I mean, we mesh very, very well together. And, it was definitely a dream come true to go to an event like that and travel. I've never been to a UFC event. I wanted my first one to either be cornering one of my buddies or, fighting. So it definitely was pretty cool to have that happen finally.
Was it unusual to do it? I guess because it is a UFC event, but it sure probably didn't feel like it with the empty arena. How did that feel? And is this something you'd be interested to do, like to compete as a fighter in an empty arena?
Yeah, and I'm one of those people where I'm not really in this for all that yelling. I mean, I love the fans, man. I love people. I'm a huge people person, so that's like one of my favorite things to do is be at the event with people. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it was my first trip. So it was really cool to kind of see the business side of things and how things are ran, and what they're doing right now, because we could be in this pandemic for a lot longer than people realize. So, I'm getting the understanding that at the level I'm at, man, I really have to, make this push, because who's really going to be doing a lot of fights right now other than, the people at the highest level in the world. So I feel like I deserve to be there, and right now we're doing everything we can to, make that happen as soon as possible.
So you're 9-1 as a heavyweight, which is really really impressive when you think about it, because they're signing guys that are 3-1. Like they signed Justin Taffa, who's 3-1. He's very impressive, but he's 3-1. As a heavyweight, to have a record like 9-1, you're bound to be knocking on the doorstep of a UFC or a Bellator. And I know you, like you said, you're not a guy who's going to beg for those shots, but you have to imagine one big win and you're right there. What do you think it'll take to get a call from a Dana White or a Scott Coker or one of these big promoters?
I think a lot of it is, man, the politics in the game. Making sure I'm with the right management company. I've been running with the same group for a long time, kind of helping one of my friends, a guy I came into the game with that I seen trying to build a brand. I've been helping him build his brand for a long time, and I think the biggest thing is just trying to make that right connection and figure out why. They're signing people that I beat last year, to go on the Contender Series. And these guys are all of a sudden sliding over the rankings and stuff on me. And, you know what I mean? It just doesn't really make any sense, because on paper you can say they're better than me, but, there's proven facts that I beat these
Yeah.
dudes and I take tougher fights. Ever since I beat some of these guys, I don't go backwards. Even after I lost that one fight that was a title fight, I didn't move really that far back in opponents. I took another title fight right after that. You know what I mean? And ever since then, I think I've had 6 scheduled title fights since I lost that fight. You know what I mean? So I keep dropping myself in what I would say the doghouse, you know what I mean, are in the jungle, you know what I mean? I'm not taking these easy fights. I'm not trying to, take away from anything anybody else is doing. You know what I mean? I understand it is what it is, and this is the game, but where's the credibility in being the guy that's different than everybody else and taking the tough fights, because I understand how I look. You know what I mean? I understand in everybody else's eyes they're going to be upset about how I look, but you don't know me. You don't know what I do every day. You don't see the time I put in. But I promise you, you get me in there and let me, perform under a fair fight. My last couple fights had some things happen that I can't control. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I continued in both fights. If you watch those fights, I never said I didn't want to continue. Obviously I was a little battered and after them. You know what I mean? One of them split me wide open. The other ones were a couple elbows to the back of the dome. You know what I mean? Those don't really feel that great. Definitely at a heavyweight. You know what I mean? Those are big dudes. Nobody's signing up to fight these guys. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to fight these guys I'm fighting. That Leroy Johnson fight in Michigan that I lost, nobody had fought him in Michigan in like 3 or 4 years other than Pat Welsh, who was in the UFC. You know what I mean? These guys, nobody was signing up for these fights, and I've been doing this year after year after year. You know what I mean? So I really can't answer that question anymore. It used to be a lot of different answers could be it, but now it's basically, I think they're just upset about how I look. Man, maybe they don't think I'm promotable, but you can look at my social medias. You can see how I promote myself, how I talked after those fights and those DQs. You know what I mean? How I represented myself after those DQs. If anything, I feel like I should get a call just for that, because not very many guys are professional in this game, and I'm doing it to a complete another extent. You know what I mean? Couple back-to-back DQs and stuff I can't control. And people posting all kinds of things about me, and I use that stuff as positive. You know what I mean? Not negative. So hopefully one day I'll get what's mine, and when the time comes, man, we'll be ready. I'm just getting better and better. I'm only 26 years old, so.
Yeah, your last two fights, like you mentioned, were disqualifications. Do you think had either one of those, been a TKO or even a decision victory, do you think that would have warranted a shot? That's all because in my opinion, that's all I think it is. It's like, okay, we can't give him a shot in the UFC coming off back-to-back DQs, even though they were legitimate DQs. There's no controversy surrounding either one of those. But do you think had you won either one of those in a different fashion, that could have gotten you a shot?
Yeah, I'd say so. And then, like, in the last ones, there was some other stuff. Fighters deal with a lot of stuff behind the scenes, and with LFA going through what it just went through, they're back up and running, and that's, I'm so happy for them because I love fighting for LFA, and those are great guys. But, right before my last fight with them, there was also some things going on behind the scenes, and I was under contract. So, there's some other question marks that had to go down with my last fight, you know what I mean? Through some decisions that I made on my side, business-wise. So, you know what I mean? There was a missed weight there, but, that was a decision I made because I knew I was going to be asking to get out of their contract. So I didn't really want the belt. I don't really care about the belt. To me, it's about taking these tough fights. So I guess, yeah, that could be a big part of it maybe. You know what I mean? The seeing the DQs, and I'm fine with that. Like I said on my social media now and previously, I'll rerun any of those fights back. If that's what the UFC wants to do, if they want to bring me in to fight one of these dudes. I see Henan just signed with PFL. Good for him. I'll fight for PFL. You know what I mean? I'm a free agent, man. That's why I made the decision when I did. If LFA even hit me up with something good, I would probably go back and fight for them as well. You know what I mean? It was just at the time with the way things were working out, fighting out of state for a little bit of money and me taking time off of work just didn't really make sense. So I wanted to be able to schedule a fight in my home state if that's what was to come next. Definitely after the DQ, you know what I mean? Because how is that, 5-round fight, man? I'm in the 5th round, and I see that as a pretty close fight. Yeah, there was some holding on in that fight, but that's a wrestler versus a judo guy. You know what I mean? As much as you tell us to break off, and we're still going to try to do what we're good at because that's what our, you know what I mean? It's tough in there. That's what happens when you're in these big fights. It makes you go to the next level of yourself, and how many of these guys that they're signing are doing that? You know what I mean? That's like my 5th or 6th title fight where I've been in that kind of a mindset. So I'll be ready for, whatever's next. And, I feel real bad for whoever I fight next. And I don't mean that out of no disrespect, man. It's just I've been putting time in. You see how Jamal did his thing. Nothing's going to build my confidence more than, being his number one sparring partner, looking just like that guy, switching stances and, doing everything that guy did, to him, and then to see him do what he did. I mean, that just helps to remind us, what level we are at. And, we ain't got to go too far to do those things. We're doing it right here in our own backyard. You know what I mean? Like people say you can't.
Yeah, one of the guys you have a victory over, Josh Parisian, I think is how you pronounce his name.
Parisian,
he's fighting on the Contender Series. Isn't it a little bit bittersweet seeing guys that you've beaten, and it's not you haven't lost since then either? So it's got to be a little bit frustrating to see guys that you've beaten competing where you want to be. How does it feel? And like, is it bittersweet at all to you?
Yeah, no, and I made a post about it. I felt bad. It took me like almost 2 days to even make a post. You know what I mean? Because I knew some people were going to be upset at me and blah 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 whatever. You know how this sport is, man. There's a lot of drama that goes into it, and I'm just not with all that. I work a full-time job. I got a great family. I like to keep my head on straight and not even pay attention to people. You know what I mean? I'm a very friendly person, so I feel like people forget that this is business. You know what I mean? So I may be friendly, but when I feel like my toes are getting stepped on or somebody's spitting in my face, you know what I mean? I'm going to speak out. So, I chased Josh as the number one heavyweight when I first came into pro fighting. So there's a lot of background behind this other than me just beating Josh. You know what I mean? I chased Josh when I was 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, and he wouldn't take the fight after he called me out when I was 0-0. He was the one that talked about fighting me. I never even knew who he was until he called me out when I was an early pro, and he already had a couple wins. I think he was just trying to get an easy dub, and then once he figured out who I was, he didn't want it. So then he goes to the Contender Series, wins, good for him, goes on the Ultimate Fighter and loses to Olympic wrestler. You know what I mean? It doesn't get finished. He keeps getting up and keeps getting up and keeps getting up and ends up losing a close decision. But shouldn't that credit what I did to him? Because I finished him in a minute 10 on the ground. You know what I mean? I subbed him, quit. So, like, to me, I should have got the call last year. That was last April. 2 Aprils ago. Sorry, 2 Aprils ago. Like a year and a half ago. You know what I mean? So I felt like I should have got the call then. So it's bittersweet at the same time. I don't mean no disrespect to Josh. It's just this is my brand. You know what I mean? So I earned number one in Michigan. So if you're signing somebody from Michigan to go on to the Contender Series, in my mind, why would you bring the backup? You know what I mean? I already proved on paper and off paper that I'm better than him. So, and I would do it again. You know what I mean? Like I mean that at no disrespect. I'm always cool to run stuff back. Wrestling, you don't, like I said, you don't get to pick. So if anybody that ever questions my skills, they can come train with me at the gym. I'll beat you at the gym, and then I'll fight you 8 weeks later and beat you again. Like I don't really care. You know what I mean? I never say these things, and it's coming to that time where I have to say these things. You know what I mean? And I don't mean no disrespect to these people. It's just I'm done being this nice. Like, oh, I'll just wait for the no. Like, you know, if I beat you and you got a shot over me, you should see that as disrespect to me, like Chad Johnson did. You know, Chad Johnson knows exactly everything about me. I fought on the same card as Chad. Him and his whole team, 100% respect those guys, and I appreciate everything they've done for me. You know what I mean? Because they reach out to me, and you know they're trying to do everything they can to kind of get the questions answered to why I'm not getting the call either. You know what I mean? Like, you know, that's why I hate to be this guy sometimes, but I just want my respect, man, and that's basically I've earned that. You know, forget the 2 DQs. You can forget the DQs, but even before the DQs, I beat Parisian, and then a lot of people don't know. Jesse Hernandez, who I fought after Parisian for Lights Out, was Grizzly Bear, Justin Frazier's buddy. So Justin Frazier was in the house with Josh. Yep. So Justin Frazier originally wanted to fight me. Justin Frazier was the one that originally wanted to fight me. But he couldn't because he got some kind of contract from somebody else. So then I ended up fighting Jesse, who was his main training partner, who also tried out for the Ultimate Fighter. And he made it to, like, the finals of the group. You know what I mean? So, like, the UFC knows who he is. You know what I mean? Like, so basically that was the only reason I even took the fight, is because I knew he was so-and-so's training partner. And his record was halfway decent. Because I don't like fighting guys that I don't think have been in the game. You know what I mean? I don't like easy fights. It doesn't make me work hard. What makes me work hard are these guys that look like poster boys and everybody's saying I'm a 9-1 underdog. You know what I mean? That's the stuff that makes me get up in the morning and do what I do on a day-to-day basis. So I will chase that forever. You know, I don't care about what promotion. Yes, obviously, you know, I wear UFC stuff. You know what I mean? I love the athletes, man. I love what everybody does, you know, and I respect, you know, Jorge Masvidal and John Jones and all these fighters. Israel Adesanya, you know, he's turning down fights because he wants a main event slot, man. He's smart. These guys are intelligent fighters, man. These aren't young kids that are coming in the game anymore without a business mindset. You know, I love seeing that because it makes me feel good about, you know, doing what I've been doing since I came into this sport. So.
Yeah, I think it's important. Guys like Jorge, guys like John Jones, doing what they're doing and standing up for pay, because I think it really will help grow the sport into becoming a big. You know, no one wants to get involved into a sport if there's no money in it. Like, realistically, no one would go into the NFL if they were making peanuts. And I think the UFC really needs to kind of build that. And I think it's important, like you said, for the champions to be doing what they're doing. With the organizations up and running now, we got LFA, Invicta, Brave, all these organizations are up and running. They're announcing events. What does that mean for you? Where are you? How are you feeling? Are you months away from a return? Weeks away?
No, I think I'm within 8 weeks, man. I've been in conversations with different management companies talking about maybe signing with them, because like I said, man, I've been working with my guy for a long time, and he's lost for words. You know what I mean? Like, we've tried to contact the UFC, and you know, so now we're taking every route, you know, imaginable. We're hitting up CFCC, we're hitting up, you know, anybody that I think that he thinks or I think or anybody around us thinks that's having shows regionally. We're hitting them up, and then I'm using this other management company. You know, he's a very good connect to have, and he represents a lot of my friends. You know what I mean? So I kind of reached out to him just to kind of see, you know, maybe he can get me a question answered that nobody else can. So, you know, if that's what it comes to, then that's what it comes to. You know, I don't want to go there, you know, because that's not the person I am. I've always been very loyal and love building things with my people, but you know, sometimes you got to branch out and try to make connections to keep building. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's where we're at, and if that's where it comes to, that's where it comes to. But regardless, I think you'll see me back August, and then hopefully November at the latest, because it sounds like that Tony Lopez fight, if nothing else happens, you know, I'm gonna hopefully run that in November, because it was just postponed. They didn't cancel it, so there's still hope for that one. Even if I get one in before that, I'm cool, because then I get 2 fights. You know what I mean? I really don't care. You know, like I said, Tony's a legend. He's got 49 wins or 50 wins. So in my mind, I don't, you know what I mean? And he's beat a lot of good guys. That's going to be a fun fight regardless. You know what I mean? So I've been chasing that fight since I was like 2-0. You know what I mean? So these guys are guys that I've seen that I wanted years ago, and they're just now, like, you know what I mean, finally giving me the chance. And it's cool for me, bad for them, because it's been a long time. You know what I mean? So I think I'm getting ready to roll into my prime here, and I'm finally starting to figure life out. I've been working the same job for about 4 years now, so my schedule's very persistent, and things are rolling right into the way I imagined them. So it's a beautiful thing on my end.
So you see a lot of guys right now getting calls because a lot of people aren't willing to fight. There's pandemics, people are getting injured, people are getting sick. Is your mentality like, even though there's no fight on a contract right now, I'm staying ready on the off chance I get a call? Because you saw it this past weekend. Jorge Masvidal yesterday wasn't supposed to fight for a title. Now
Yep.
he's 4 days away from a title shot. Is that your mentality? Just stay in shape, stay in shape. You never
Yeah.
know, the call
Yeah.
might come.
I kind of a lot of people don't know, man. I was a really big guy. I was like 340 when I started fighting, 335, and I didn't look anything how I look now. You know what I mean? Like I put on a lot of weight. I lost a lot of weight, and then I started kind of putting on muscle. I went through a few injuries. I had a surgery a few years ago, so I'm about the healthiest I've felt fighting. Now that I've felt in a long time. So this quarantine, I kind of been doing some things. I've been working out really hard, and I kind of put on a little bit of muscle. So now it's just, the mindset's getting that weight right about where I want it to. I've always walked around a little bit over the heavyweight limit. You know what I mean? So the goal is now to get a little closer to the heavyweight limit. Maybe around 275 is what I want to walk around at. Maybe even get a little lighter. You know what I mean? If that's what's to come. I enjoy eating, man. I love my life. So this is like the only thing, like, this is the last thing on the list. And I put it on as the last thing on the list because people have made fun of me since I was a little kid. So, I mean, everybody's always said that was, oh, he's a chunky kid, or, oh, he's out of shape. I won a state title like this. I was an All-American in college, 1 year wrestling in college. You know what I mean? Like my first year, I was an All-American as a true freshman, 18-year-old kid. You know what I mean? So if I would have kept doing that, I think I would have been just as successful. This is just what I fell into, and I have a huge love for it. So whether I'm on contract to fight, my life is built around this sport. I have so many other friends that fight. I love jiu-jitsu now as well. I'm a very, very good wrestling grappler. And now I'm subbing people. I have a very good, submission tool list. So I just enjoy getting better. And that's the whole thing about, the longer they hold out on me, it's not really going to change anything. I think, I've got a big love for this sport, and it's going to take something a lot crazier than people telling me I'm, too ugly for the UFC to make me quit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's very unfortunate that that's kind of the mentality they have, because you look at some of the greatest fighters in the UFC. The first one that comes to mind to me is Daniel Cormier, right? And he's not built like Francis Ngannou. He's
Yeah,
not built
no,
like
man. It's
John
this
Jones.
this this has a lot more to do with what you look like. I hate to say it like that, but when you're in there, man, I've wrestled some very, very strong guys, and I've made them look real, real bad, in front of a lot of people many times. So, yes, this is fighting, and yes, there's punches being thrown. But, I wrestled for a long time. I've been doing jiu-jitsu for about 4 or 5 years, and you're seeing me sub these high-level guys that got way higher belts than I got. You know what I mean? So now I've been striking for about, I'd say, 5 or 6 years as well, almost going on 7 years. I think, or well, maybe 5 years going on 6 years now. I've been striking, and you see, now you see who I'm sparring with on a day-to-day basis. He wouldn't be bringing me in his camp if he didn't think I was offering him something that was,
Mm.
better than most guys. So I feel bad for these guys because I've always built. I've never been somebody that did something and then like plateaued. If I lost, I use that to get better. So I'm just waiting to find my day to keep getting better. I hate DQs because like that just gives it a question mark to me. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have cared if I lost those fights because nobody's taking those fights. You know what I mean? That's my point. Nobody's jumping to fight a 6'9" or 6'10", 250-pound Brazilian guy coming from one of the most notable Brazilian fighters at heavyweight. You know what I mean? Like nobody's jumping to fight that guy. Nobody's jumping to fight Daniel James. These aren't guys that the people that are getting signed to the Contender Series at heavyweight. These aren't the fights these guys are taking. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hopefully, man. Hopefully, you get noticed. I've been watching you for a long time, so I do know what you're capable of doing. When there's no disqualifications, I know that you're quite capable of putting out anybody. So I'm really excited, and hopefully you're a fight or two away. I'll ask a couple more questions, and then I'll let you get going. But there's a big fight this weekend. We touched on it. Jorge Masvidal stepping up on short notice to fight Kamaru Usman, who's a monster, who's looked absolutely crazy in every one of his fights. What's your prediction for that fight?
I mean, I think if anything, it's going to be Usman. Usman's going to probably try to grapple him. You know, a lot of Jorge's losses came from really good guys taking him down. You know, not a lot of people stand at the distance with him. Definitely not now. So I think if we see Kamar getting beat, it's going to be something he gets caught with. You know what I mean? Late in the round. I don't think it's going to be something early. I don't see him diving in on a shot like Askren did. You know what I mean? Everybody knows that's what Jorge's going to be looking for, is that knee. So I mean, I love Masvidal, dude. I've always been I used to watch him when he did his bare knuckle stuff and his street fighting. You know what I mean? Like that. I used to watch him before I fought. You know, a lot of my buddies in high school used to watch all that stuff. So I've always been a big Masvidal fan, and it's really cool to see him come back these last couple of years and do the things he's been doing. So it would be a heaven sent day for me if he won the belt. You know what I mean? Like that would be cool to me because that's a guy I feel like put a lot of years in the sport. I love Kamaru Usman too. Sometimes I feel like he's a little cliche, you know what I mean? But that's a lot of people in his ear probably telling him he's got to say those things, which, you know, I understand it because you're trying to make the money. I get it. But I wish them both the luck, but I'm pulling for Masvidal. I like Masvidal, man. I really do.
And then last question for you: when you're not training throughout the pandemic, when you're not doing anything MMA related, what sorts of things do you get up to? Any video games? What?
Yeah. I play. I say the main thing is I hang out with my fiance a lot. My dog. I got a little bulldog. Like I said, my nickname's Big Dog. I love dogs, so that's kind of why I think the dog thing came into my life. Is I was always hanging out, and I always had a bulldog. So people always like bulldogs because they're so ugly, they're cute. So maybe that's why I like them, is because I'm so, you know, so much different. I'm cute, right? That's the goal. But no, I hang out with my girl, my dog. I play Call of Duty. Jamal's really good at Call of Duty as well. He kind of wrote me into it. I used to be just a Fortnite guy because it was free. You know, I mean, I don't like spending money. So I played Fortnite for a long time with like my niece and nephews and my girlfriend, fiance now. But now she plays Fortnite most of the time, and I do Call of Duty. But I work a lot, and then even when I'm not working, I usually am out doing like, you know, some tree work or some side work, just trying to build some knowledge, you know, because the goal is to start my own business one day, so I don't have to work for somebody, you know. Then I can make my own hours and make my training regimen even better. You know what I mean? Like, so that's the goal one day, and that's why I want those bigger checks, man. I'm not asking for 100, you know, 20 straight for me. I'll earn it. You know what I mean? I'll earn it because I can take 20 and turn it into a business and be making more money. And then when you call me, I'll take a month off, and all my buddies and stuff that I'm trying to help build their lives are back here working while I'm doing my other job. You know what I mean? I've always had that goal, you know. So fighting has just kind of been that blessing that I didn't know I would have. You know, I didn't never expected to have a way to make extra money. So it was kind of cool that it is what it is because I spent so much time wrestling in my life. It's like, well, at least it's going somewhere.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. Thank you so much for the time, man. I can't wait to see your next fight. Hopefully it's in the UFC, or hopefully it's a Contender Series, or
Yeah.
whatever
I
it
don't.
takes to
Yeah, and
get
I
there.
don't. You know, like I said, I don't care where it's at. You know, win,
Yeah.
lose or draw, you're going to see me fight again, and that, you know, and that's kind of my point. I wasn't making those posts to be rude to people. It was more of like, if you think this is what's going to make me go away, like, you know, you guys are crazy. I'm the youngest guy on the list. And that's what a lot of. I've been the youngest guy on these rankings lists for like 3 years, and I'm still one of the youngest guys. So I feel like maybe that's why. Maybe they're like, well, he's still young. Let him grow, and maybe they think I'm going to grow into my body. You know, I've been hearing that baby fat will go away for about 20 years now. So I just can't wait for it myself, let alone them.
I love that, man. But man, I'm can't wait to watch your next fight, regardless where it is. I do think it's only a matter of time before you get noticed by a big organization. So, all the best, man. Stay safe. Keep washing your hands because don't want to catch anything.
Yes,
And
sir.
stay ready, man. All the best.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Anytime.
Take it easy, brother.